What's going on, everyone? It's your boy Thriller here with a new draft league with the Dratini's Den draft league. I'm gonna probably call it the DDDL or just go Dratini's Den League. Full name, I don't know. We'll figure out what it goes from there. But if you guys are excited for your new draft league, definitely hit that like button if you haven't already. Subscribe if you're new to join the Thriller crew today because you'd be thrilling with the king of the crew. So let's talk some business here. What is this draft? What are we doing here and how did it happen? So some spots opened up, and since spoilers, if you have not watched our one matchup yet, which I'll make sure I upload before this, so I make sure I can still break the fourth wall and still provide the contact information before uploading this one. We unfortunately lost our last opportunity and pretty much we're out of playoffs. There is a miracle chance I can make playoffs if I win out and everyone else pretty much just terrible. I have a valid shot, but that's probably not going to happen because everyone's super talented. But yeah. So I decided to join one more league. I think from now on though, with all the leagues I'm in, I'm gonna definitely wait because once March or April rounds around, then I'll be pretty much free and I'll start maybe trying to manage my league system here because summer's coming up here and you guys know my summer schedule. I'm super busy. I think I've decided that I'm going to do it maximum one Wi-Fi league and then maybe one or two showdown leagues. So three leagues at max I'm probably going to do. But we'll have to wait and see. That'll be for future update video. But that now, let's talk about Dratini's Den. So this league was 14 coaches. We had I believe 120 point budget, and we can get up to a minimum 10 Pokemon. Excuse me. Minimum of 10 Pokemon, maximum of 12. We were allowed to 2 to 3 Terra captains on this team, up to 3 Terra captains on this team. And the way Terra is going to work is one of the kind of work ugh, ugh, God, I cannot talk. Earlier methods of Terra basically means that you can draft one. You have to draft one stab type with your Terra captain, and then you get 2 free Terra types. A little dumb, a little boring in my opinion, but it's what leagues wanted to do. And pretty much the majority of Pokemon from the 9 point tier, about probably 99% of the tier was not allowed to Terra, which made it pointless to draft some of the Pokemon that we did draft. But you know what? Leagues have stupid rules, so we're just gonna have to just go with it. But we had the seventh pick overall of 14, so literally in the middle. God, terrible in the middle. So we had to grab the best out of the situation. So what I decided to do in this league is try to draft some stuff I haven't used before, and plus I want to try to use Pokemon that either I consider terrible Pokemon or what other people consider terrible Pokemon. Now that I'm going to say this right now, you're in our first pick and you're seeing some of our draft picks right now. I'm going to tell you right now, these some of the stuff that is deemed terrible is deemed what other people say and maybe what I say, but mostly sometimes others or it's my general opinion. But our first pick, I decided to go with Great Tusk again, like I did in OGL Season 1. The reason I did that Season 1 of OGL was because I never got a chance to use Great Tusk, and plus I felt like Great Tusk was not going to make it back to me. And having just that reliable spinner, reliable rocker every single week that can do either or functionality wise, but also being more diverse with it is so good. I love having a Pokemon like that. Plus, I have gotten a new love for Great Tusk. If you guys saw our showdown live with the Sun team and also our JDL tournament run, we really did well with this thing. We played with it really well. We functioned it perfectly well and I really am proud of myself for how I've been able to reuse the Pokemon and be able to use it. So I'm feeling more confident with it this time around, and I'm hoping to definitely do a good job with it this season and just have some fun with it this time. But Great Tusk is fantastic, a good physically defensive monster, a great offensive breaker, good enough speed. Again, those booster sets with bulk up is really good setup opportunities for a lot of matchups. With max, like going with like max at HP, max speed for that boost is really good, and you can just rely on like boost your attack if you really want to as well with rapid spin just to get that speed buff and stuff. So very much looking forward to using this Pokemon again. Very much a little bit of a while since we just used it, but very excited. Now we get to talk about bad Pokemon, and this is one of the baddest Pokemon ever. And baddest as mean it sucks. Now I will not lie, I'm seeing my good friend John Jr. use this thing in BBR right now, and he's gotten I think around between 5 and 10 kills with this thing so far, and he's kind of taking back what he said about the one video where he uploaded about Chiyu sucks. on the other hand, think Chi still sucks. But it's the season. It's time to see if it's maybe me that's not using it well or trying to use this thing. Now, obviously, you guys know when draft my New Year's resolutions when it comes to my drafts. I'm going at least 3 weeks without dropping anything, and then afterwards it's fair game. Pretty much I've lived up to that standard. Um, so Chi, it's gonna be interesting to see how it does. I'm hoping it does something. Otherwise, it's gonna get the boot later on down the road. And a little bit also as context is that I did draft GU in my very first ever Gen 8 league, which I believe was the GDL, which was the Go Go Draft League. I think that's what it was. Or the GDL, one of the two. And we had 8-mon teams. And this was like my fourth or fifth best Pokemon out of the 8 I drafted. So about half or under half of the Pokemon I had on my team, this thing was that lackluster. Like it was cool in the first week because I used Taunt Ruination to shut down Chansey, which is really good because this thing can actually beat the 1v1 under a certain situation. But this thing's just not as good in my opinion. But we're gonna have to see if this is a season where Chiyu is good and go from there. With my third overall pick, I really wanted to get myself an electric type because you all know I love me my electric types. I'm a massive fan of electric typing because I think it's one of the not the best typing in the game. And surprisingly enough, Raging Bolt was still sitting there in round three. And to me, I thought this was a steal to get here in round three. It's also a really good dragon type. Now, again, it is one of those Pokemon that has very much super, super limited coverage. Like Dragon, Electric Stab. In most matches. It does have a decent physical attack stat. I don't know why this is randomly set to 30 and 20. 73 attacks, not the worst. You can make it work for choice band sets. If I was to go that stupid route or mixed sets. But overall, it's a fantastic Pokemon. I really love this thing. It's definitely a Pokemon that is not a broken Pokemon, but it's a fun Pokemon. I'm very excited to use this thing right now. It's going to be hopefully doing some really good work for us. I'm hoping to get at least upwards to 5 to 8 kills with this thing. I want to do at least well because I love doing well with my electric types because that's again my favorite typing to go with. It's got good natural speed to outspeed the lower tier bulk that can be facing out there, and it also can outspeed some things if I really want to. Choice Scarf sets are really good. Choice Spec sets are phenomenal. Calm Mind, AV, just a fantastic Pokemon. So right now, you look at my first three picks. I have absolutely zero switches to good fairy types, both physical and special. So I figure I get one of the best answers for a fairy type that can work either or. I grabbed Metagross, and I'm super excited for Metagross. I have not really used Metagross like at all, even from the last gen or two from out there. I really have not touched Metagross, and even then from last gen, I didn't use it a ton. So, my boy Titanium here is going to be a mon that I have very rarely used, but I'm super excited to use this thing. Access to rocks, which is the second rocker, which is really good. Iron defense, body press sets, and meteor beam special sets. And what's also really cool about this thing is now you can run heavy metal, heavy slam. Oh, it doesn't have heavy metal, my bad. But it has heavy slam, which I think is stronger than Meteor Mash. I could be wrong. Also, getting access to knockoff is fantastic. Access to Trailblaze is fantastic. But also, added the Psychic Mane, its strongest psychic move, and it's 100% accurate and breaks screens. This is a phenomenal Pokemon. I am very excited to use Titanium, my Metagross here this season, and it's gonna be awesome, man. I'm super excited for this. So coming up next, I really wanted to grab another Bond that was a terrible Mon for a lot of people, including myself, especially when you faced it back in Gen 7, maybe Gen 8. I don't know. I don't remember. No, it wasn't Gen 8. Yeah, Gen 8. That Pokemon was Seabreeze, the Suicune here. And now Suicune did lose Toxic, which is both a blessing and a hindrance to it. It's a hindrance because it does ruin some viable sets that it did have with having Toxic. But it's a blessing because thank God we never have faced this thing, you don't have to stress about Toxic stall anymore. Oh, I hate this thing. But it is a fantastic Pokemon. It's a fantastic Pokemon that can play physically or especially defensive. There's a lot of cool things you can go with Suicune. Again, another decent speed tier, but also a speed that takes advantage of bulk, which I can run speed for, no speed for, and run maximum bulk. And there's gonna be a couple of things that a lot of people forget. This thing gets access to grass coverage. This thing gets access to skull now back, access to extra sensory. There's a lot of cool things I think a lot of people forget. Like a lot of people forget it gets great ice coverage and things like icy wind and ice beam for support. But one of the big things I think a lot of people forget is that this thing learns tailwind, which is super cool for a Pokemon like this. Now, obviously, roughly 3 or 4 turns, you only get access to Tailwind, so it's not very limited. But I think it's really, really cool. Pressure is actually a very good ability for this thing as well, because again, it increases that PP that Pokemon can try to use for Roost and Recovery, and they can be able to 1v1 them. Calm Mindsets are really good from an offensive standpoint, which is really awesome. But I really want to be different with Suicune this time. I want to maybe try to run maybe like specs once a week, or if we're doing memes, run Choice Band. But I want to run something like maybe like Calm Mindsets, and just all these fun stuff, man. I really want to try out Suicune, have some fun with it, and hopefully do well with it. But yeah, going into round number 6. Did not have a poison type up to this point, and T spikes, when you look at the rest of my draft, really messed me up, especially if I'm forced out with Terras and stuff like that. So I needed to get a grounded poison type, plus I felt like I needed another fairy answer that wasn't just Metagross. And that Pokemon was Pecharunt, which I'm a little surprised made it to round 6. I thought that this thing could have easily gone the first 5 rounds, no problem. But I guess a lot of people were not. It also gave me a ghost type, which is really good. It also gave me access to no toxic spikes, which I thought it had. But it's a very annoying Pokemon with having base 160 defense is insanely stupid. This thing can play physical or special. It can easily go mixed in a lot of weeks. This is just a very good Pokemon. With having Poison Puppeteer, I guarantee to get confusion of Pokemon being toxic. And with the fact that a Pokemon literally learns toxic, you can literally go toxic and just like that activate Puppeteer. Or get the 50% chance off a Malefic Chain and get the poison there as well. It is just an annoying Pokemon to really deal with it. Nothing really beats this thing 1v1. Not really normal types, not really steel types, not really dark types. Well, to a certain degree, obviously. But this thing is very exciting. I'm very hyped to try this thing. I've never used Petron. Obviously, it's only been new for about a couple of weeks and stuff like that. Maybe about a month or so now. But I'm very excited to try this Pokemon. And I think there's a lot of potential here. So I'm very much looking forward. So going into round 7, decided to pick up a Terra Captain because it was a good Terra value, and plus I really needed a grass type for this draft, and I felt like having grass support was also really good. So I ended up picking up my girl Reef here, which the Reef like you see on Christmas when you see on decorations. That's why I got named it Reef. But we have our Bolival here. Now I have drafted a Bolival before, one time in the CPL, and let's be honest, I didn't use that thing at all except for 1 week, and that was against a rain team, and that was it. Which is a shame because I do think there's a lot of potential with this Pokemon. But I decided to make this a Terra Captain because I saw Joey using it as a Terra Captain. I've seen other people use it as a Terra Captain. It's a lot of fun to use this thing as a Terra Captain. But what I have decided to do, and this could be something that might change maybe down the line. So for the stab types, I actually kept normal for one reason only, and that's a ghost immunity, which I think is really important to have on a team. But also, ghosts, we're only weak to fighting. We have several fighting checks under this team with Pecharon, one of our other Pokemon, and also with the option potentially with Terra and something else as well. I felt like fighting wasn't too scary for me to deal with, so I felt like this, and plus having that ghost immunity was more important. For our two types that we did choose, I choose Fairy and Fire, which you can kind of see with the moves, which represent the type. I went with Fairy just because Fairy is a really good defensive typing for a lot of times, and the Fairy seems like to be one of the top 3 best typings to put on our Pokemon, just because it's good in offensive typing for some Pokemon, it's a great defensive typing for a lot of Pokemon as well. We also went with Fire after seeing how Joey really popped off with Terra Fire. Terra Fire being weak to water, you have that grass option to be able to do that. Plus, it's one of the best counters to the game to Cerealage under the certain stations that it has. It's just a fantastic, oh, excuse me, defensive Pokemon that can just be able to be brought for a decent amount of the weeks. Seed Tower is a great ability because it sets up grassy terrain. Also Harvest for some weeks, which is really good because I just keep getting that citrus berry all constantly if I want, or those berries that increase my stats. Just just an overall decent Pokemon. Access things like Earth Power, Hyper Voice, Leech Seed, Dazzling Gleam is also really good on this Pokemon. it's just it's just a fantastic mod. So I'm very much looking forward to using this thing. I'm hoping to bring it a decent amount of the weeks, It's probably not going to be brought to almost every game, but I really want to. I really would want to. Going into round 8, I actually picked up Gem. Now, I will say I was looking at this as a potential fairy Terra captain, but again, because pretty much everything in 9 point below, even though your points say 9 point below Pokemon can Terra, the majority, if not like I said, 95% of the blind pointers cannot tear, which makes no sense to do that. But again, we actually decided to keep Deancey on this team because even though yes, the steel weakness is a little annoying, I do have decent answers to steel. I have fine control over steel, which I felt was really fine. And I know ground's another thing that we're going to fair, but there's options to get that iron defense or calm mind off depending on the ground type that comes into the matchup. But Yancey's fantastic. Offers trick group support, which is really good. Right? Excuse me. To a couple of things on my team, like I can run Rune Service for some Pokemon, just be able to go offensively great in this matchup with them. It's just really fantastic. I like DNC. I loved using it as a Terra Captain. I think I've never really used it. I've only used it one time as it is, but didn't finish the league with it. I think I got like 5 kills with this thing with like a Trick Room Call mindset. So I'm very excited to try DNC. I want to try to be a little different. It did pick access to spikes, which is really cool as well. So I'll give you now spikes and a third rocker, which is really, really great. So I'm very much looking forward to trying out Gem this week and Gem this week. I keep saying this week as I'm going to bring him on where I haven't even built yet. So, but I'm very excited to use DNC. I've never used regular DNC, so it's going to be fun. Up next, we went with Lucha Libre. As you look at this draft, I have no speed besides a Chi. I needed one speed tier. Plus, this did double up. This gave me some typings I did not have. I did double up on fighting, but it did not give me a flying type. It also gives me options to defog, which is really important. As it is a decent defog user in some matchups because of Bullet Breaker going past Golden Hill. But again, it was one of those Pokemon I want my opponents to have to always prep because I can always be wider close combat. I can always be like SD Endure and like Weakness Policy or Endure Salic Berry, Endure Lychee Berry, something like that to just activate something and go from there. This Pokemon is very hard to switch in if you're not careful. I have used Lucha before a little bit, but I don't think I finished the league with it. But I did enjoy it for whatever I remember correctly. From what I had with it, but it was a fantastic Pokemon. I'm very much looking forward to trying this thing. Like I said, I don't really use this thing before, so it's gonna be really interesting to see how we did. And with our final pick of the draft, and I'm very happy that no one just tried to take this from me. We've grabbed our boy, Forehead the Bastion. Shouts to my friend Brendan, aka Dark Devil 26, for this nickname because he nicknames his Gouting Fire Forehead, and I felt like this was the perfect name to give Bastion. So shouts to him. This is our Terra Captain with Steel, Fighting, and Ghost. Ghost just because it's really good to stop, spin block, which is really important, but also only weak to Ghost and Dark type, which we can have good resistance and good checks to that. Fighting, because of course, body press. Like, why would I not draft this thing for fighting? Come on. And then I went with Steel over Rock because Steel is a better defensive typing. And again, only like a few weaknesses to that. And again, most of those weaknesses that we face are going to be physical. The only thing that's not going to be physical is probably going to be fire types. So a little bit the only thing we're going to have to be stressing. But this under Trick Room with Choice Span or with Iron Defense Body Press Weakness Policy. It is fantastic. I'm so looking forward to using Bastiodon. It's not even funny, man. I'm very much looking forward to using this Pokemon, and I cannot wait for us to try to have some fun with it. I want to try to bring this thing every single week if I can, man. This thing is such a good Pokemon. I love it. But yeah, that's gonna be the draft here. I'm gonna run over as to finish up my thoughts here. Let me know what you guys think about this team. It's kind of a fun team for me. I'm not gonna lie. It's definitely a team I probably wouldn't see myself drafting a ton, but it's a very fun team. It's very interesting. I think I do like this team actually better than my OGDL team that I drafted just recently, honestly. Just because it's full of a lot of new Pokemon I've never used, Pokemon I've only used maybe once or twice at most, and then maybe one or two familiar face that I've always used. So very looking forward to this season. Hopefully, it's not drama free, and hopefully, we can have some fun. With that being said, though, thank you guys for watching. Like, comment, share, subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.